Good evening and welcome to BJC Mitzvah A, number 187, part 2. Using the Sefer Hachinuch, mitzvah that keeps your soul on its way, and today's mitzvah to cover the blood after slaughtering, found in Parshas Acharei Mois. The Hachinuch begins his discussion of the laws of the mitzvah by focusing on the animals to which the obligation applies, as we talked about wild animals and fowl. Among the laws of the mitzvah, is that which the sages of blessed memory have stated, according to the Rambam, that the mitzvah of kisui adam, covering the blood, applies to all fowl and all chayos, again, wild animals. And it applies whether it has been a prepared animal, i.e. it had dwelled in captivity and was readily available for slaughter, or unprepared, i.e. it had just been captured for the wild. The phrase in the verse cited above, any man who will trap a prey, which seems to indicate that the mitzvah applies to animals that have just been captured, is stated in that way only because that is the usual manner of obtaining a chaya, a wild animal. But it does not actually limit the halacha to that case. However, the obligation applies only to unconsecrated chayas or fowl, but not the consecrated ones, not the kedoshim. The koi is an animal whose halachic classification as a chaya or a behema remains in doubt. They don't know. Is it a wild animal or a domesticated animal? The Chinuch sets out the halacha of this animal with regard to the obligation of kisui adam. The obligation of kisui adam applies to the blood of a koi, because it is questionable whether the koi is a species of chaya or a species of behema. However, we do not recite a blessing upon the covering its blood, as the obligation is only due to a doubt. The Chinuch cites selected laws relating to the blood that must be covered and the procedure for covering it. Regarding blood that splatters outside the area where the blood was expected to fall, or blood that remains on the slaughtering knife, one is obligated to cover it. When there is no blood to cover other than that blood, one is obligated to cover it when there is no blood to cover other than that blood. However, if there's any other blood, one covers that blood, and he need not cover the blood that splattered or that remains on the knife. The source for this law is that it is written in Leviticus, quote, and he will spill its blood, he shall cover it with earth. And the expression its blood is understood as meaning that one fulfills the obligation by covering even part of the blood. The one who is covering the blood is required to place earth both underneath the blood and above it. Okay, we'll learn more about this mitzvah, God willing, tomorrow. And we should be finished, God willing, by tomorrow. Thanks for listening to the Sponsor Future Mitzvah 36-100 for the gold. Have a great day.